Well, welcome back to another episode of the DCL podcast. I am not Steve today, but
You're
today
not.
we are talking about something that has been long awaited and long overdue. We have summer 2024 sailings. Of course,
2024 summer is
summer
here.
sailings. And typically, I think what we get most excited is seeing what ship's going to be in Europe, where we're
hmm
going in Europe. And we do have some new fun things going on there, some new stops. But we have something else, I think, even more exciting happening in 2024. What is that, Christy?
Lighthouse Point cruises.
Lighthouse Point. Yep. So Disney Cruise Line's new, I think they brand it as a private island, but it's a private beach experience,
Yes.
which is still on brand with what a lot of other cruise lines currently do. But if it's anywhere near as cool and great as Castaway Cay is, then I think we're in for quite the treat here.
Yes, I agree. And it looks so beautiful so far. So, your podcast team's already chatting and trying to figure out when we can make it there. So, sometime in the season, people from the podcast will be at Lighthouse Point. It's just a question of when.
Do we want to just jump in and talk
Yeah.
about those sailings right now since we're already
Yeah,
on
let's
it?
start right at the top. And who would have thought that Europe, I mean, anybody, right? Who knows that Lighthouse Point was coming out, but who would have thought Europe makes the back burner?
Literally, it is the back page.
Yeah. That's only because the Bahamas, which, the Wish, let's just start with that. The same 3 and 4 night sailings. Doesn't look like there's really anything.
There is nothing new with the Wish. It has
Nothing
one
new.
line.
Yeah.
three and 4 night Bahama sailings.
So yeah, that's the end of that. Wish is done. Beautiful, but done. Okay, so let's move on to most of the season for Lighthouse Point will be the Magic will be the one making the stops there for most of the season.
Yes, and we are looking at shorter Magic cruises, a lot of 3 and 4 nights.
So smart of them, because who was going on the Magic out of Fort Lauderdale in the summer on a short cruise? Nobody
On a short
was.
cruise, no one. I think they still could have made, and we do have some 5 nights. We've got some really cool 5-night, I'm going to call it a double dip still. I'm not sure what the term for stopping at each should be.
Double stop? Double island?
Double Magic? I don't know.
Someone tell us.
But yeah,
Tell us
so
in the
we do
comments.
have, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4 different sailings on the Magic that are 5 nights that do Castaway, Lighthouse, Nassau, and a day at sea. So those
That's
are
amazing.
pretty cool as well. And see, they are all 3 of them in July and then 1 of them in August.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got, it looks like mostly 3 nights on the Magic are the ones that are stopping at Lighthouse. And then
4 nights.
oh no, okay, yep. It does go. It kind of goes back and forth. It's like one week it's doing Lighthouse, the next week it's doing Castaway.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see here.
Don't mind us. So we are just getting the chart. Lake has somewhere that he has to go soon. But we wanted to record this afternoon because we're so excited about this and wanted to get out. Steve's flying a plane as we speak, and Nova is doing spring break with her Seth's family, and so holding babies, and so we're like, let's just get this out. So excuse our lack of editing, obviously, and lack of preparation, because we seriously both just finished runs and got the sheet and started talking.
Yep, that is exactly what happened.
All right, so let me go. We have some comments already. Let me try to go to the main Facebook page. It is hard to do all of this. I'm actually going to just do this, guys. If you're commenting, thank you very much. We're not going to see the names of who comments most of the time. So one of our listeners just said, tell us everything about Lighthouse Point. And so we are going to we're going to finish going through all that right now. But to see the names, we have to switch back to Facebook, and it's too much. There's too much to see today.
Yes, if you are commenting on my channel, we will see that.
Okay, good. You're so smart.
All right, so moving on with Lighthouse Point. Do you want to just go into the inaugural?
Yeah.
So, like we said, most of the summer Lighthouse Point, you're going to be magic out of Fort Lauderdale, which will also be cool because Fort Lauderdale is a newer, specialized Disney port at that point.
Yes, but you know what? Before we even talk about the inaugural, let's talk about the booking. Even though we do this at the end typically, Pearl is not booking first, which means if you're platinum from, 10 cruises on, you still get to book on opening day on Monday. So that I think I was not expecting that. I was expecting, and I think other people were as well, that Pearl would start the booking on Monday. But Disney has put on their like get ready to book that it's happening with Platinum first. So we'll go back to the rest of the schedule. But Lake, if you want to talk about the inaugural.
Yeah, so the inaugural is not going to be on the Magic. The inaugural actually is taking the place on a 7-night fantasy sailing. And this is a phenomenal sailing. This sailing is June 8th out of Port Canaveral, which is all the more convenient for 99% of people. Point to K is what someone said. Oh, I actually was able to pull it up. Brandon says double dip, point to K or K point.
Nice. And this cruise would be a point to K or point to Key. It's not K, it's Key. Castaway Key.
Either way.
So we'll have to figure that out.
You have a double dip at Lighthouse Point.
A double dip!
One stop at Nassau, which for many people can be another day at sea.
Oh, it will be.
You have a stop at Castaway, which will probably be your last day of the sailing. And you have 2 sea days along with that. You cannot get any more like Disney Cruise Line than that. That is going to be an iconic sailing.
Yes.
Also, probably a very fast-selling sailing.
Oh, yeah. I think that one. And the prices, so you can load prices on the website. It appears that you could put in the number of guests that you have for a particular sailing.
I do have that one for 2 people, actually.
Yeah, you can share it.
Yeah, so inside.
And remember, let me just say this really quick. These are the starting prices. So this is like navigators verandas or even in the white walls. These are not going to be like your 5C midship on deck 7. So just some things to keep in mind when you're thinking of these starting prices, but they're a great starting point to know how to plan.
Yep. So we did price it out for 2 of us. Inside is starting at $52.40. Ocean view, $59.40. Veranda goes up to $7,200, and then concierge is starting at $15,740.
And obviously, concierge is what's going to be needed in order to get one of the cabanas at Lighthouse Point.
We did confirm it's 20 cabanas at Lighthouse Point again?
I think so. Are you like saying that with certainty because you know? No, I don't know either.
I thought we just talked, or I think you guys just talked about that in the last episode.
And I feel like that's about what it was. They needed more. They could have sold more. I can only imagine how much those are going to cost.
Yeah, but I mean, until we get on the island or see maps, we're not 100% going to know what is this, footprint we're dealing with on this island. How much space do they actually have to work with? But either way, it is exciting. We all love Castaway Key. Castaway Key really changed the private island cruising experience. They were one of the earlier ones to adopt it and also go really all in on it. Now it's pretty standard for every cruise line to have one of these private beach or private island experiences. So it's excited to see where they're going to go from Castaway into Lighthouse Point. We have seen some of that concept. We know Joe Rohde was on the project for a short period. Unfortunately, not anymore. But you can see, even in some of that concept art, some of those flares that he would have put in there.
Yeah. So, and when you think about Coco Cay, Royal Caribbean's private island, they charge like $2,000 for some of those cabanas for a day. So I'm really curious to see what Disney's price point's going to be, if they're going to keep it in line with what they have. We already know that they do a little surge pricing in the summer, but I am curious to see how that's going to look. One of our commenters, listeners said, you could sell 999 cabanas. I mean, right? Like,
That was
maybe
Amber.
not. Oh, hi, Amber. Maybe not that many, but for sure. So, God, I mean, they could. They could, at least on some of the sailings, especially at Lighthouse. Okay, so let's keep going. So the inaugural is going to be that 7-night on the Fantasy. Then, do we think that they're going to do blackout dates for curious about the 3-night preview cruise for Lighthouse Point. Liz, do you see that somewhere? They call it a preview for, so Liz just commented and said, I'm curious about, I think I said that out loud already, but the 3-night for Lighthouse Point, why is it called a preview? It's typically called a preview for their travel, like,
yeah, and
trade.
that is on,
so either
that's on our sheet.
That's not, oh, it is. Okay, good.
Yeah, on the
Well, then-
third column, it says 3-night Lighthouse Point preview on the Magic. And it just stops at Lighthouse Point and Nassau, June 6th.
Is that on?
So it literally would be, it has to be there basically like the day before the Fantasy would get there. Or something very close, because the Fantasy one leaves June 8th.
Is that on this chart?
It is, yep, on the third under Bahamas.
No. On the...
Oh, on the booking?
Mm-hmm.
That I do not know.
June 6th. No, I don't.
It's not under the booking. So
Preview cruise. It is.
Oh, okay.
So, interesting then that they're calling it inaugural. But they're like, you know what? People will spend the money. So the June 6th, inside starts at 3,100. Ocean, this is for 3, I believe, my pricing. Ocean views 33.63. Veranda is 4,000. Concierge at 72.10 to start. So it is a bookable cruise. Typically, they'll do a preview for their, their top Instagram people and their top bloggers and
their travel professionals.
Media, and some travel professionals.
I'm sure we
will
still absolutely see that. And maybe that is a good idea to still have that and then leave the actual inaugural up to booking. Because what's interesting about that is you can't do both.
All right, because they overlap.
Yep. And they are out of very different places as well.
Yes. Okay, so again, as a reminder, especially if you're just tuning in, we have just sort of printed off the itinerary sheets. You can actually get the links from the DCL website where it talks about summer sailings. So we're sort of going through all this. We wanted to make sure we got this episode out, but also getting this episode out means we're a little bit of a hot mess. And so Amber said, what time should we all meet you at the port for the preview cruise, Christy? I do love me a good preview cruise.
I did just post the link to the preview, so that'll show up in all of our comments there.
You're awesome.
But do we want to move on to maybe some of this less exciting things? I mean, there's still lots of exciting. It's all Disney Cruise Line.
Let me just say that really quick, there is a Labor Day cruise that's going to Lighthouse Point on the Magic that has super reasonable rates. So if that was something you were considering and you like to get away for that long weekend, either your kids are already in school and you're like, they can miss a little Friday action, or they don't start until after Labor Day, like all of our friends to the north, then this gives you opportunities to get on that cruise for a bit of a savings. Okay, so as we discussed, the Wish is just doing the 3 and 4 nights. The Fantasy is doing its normal for the most part. And we should go back to the Magic really quick. The Magic does have some 5-night sailings at other times of the summer and doing other stops. So basic Caribbean cruises where you can do you can go to Western and you can go to the Eastern. So those are options as well if you want to do that on a smaller ship. And remember, The opportunities on smaller ships like Castaway is going to be a lot emptier. There are some advantages to being on the Magic going to Castaway versus the Fantasy, and they're going to be cheaper versus the Fantasy and the Wish. There's also a double dip in the summer.
Yes, that is July 20th.
The traditional double dip.
Yes, there's 2 stops at Disney Castaway on the Fantasy, actually.
Okay, yes. I was like, I can't find it, but I know it's in here. So, that's always a fan favorite. It is a great cruise to do in the summer. And then obviously it won't be quite as expensive as trying to get one of the stops that do multiple stops. And then the Fantasy is just doing back and forth, alternating weeks to the Western Caribbean and the Eastern. The Western is going to stop at Cozumel, Grand Cayman, Falmouth, Castaway, and then the Eastern is going to Tortola, St. Thomas, and Castaway with 3 days at sea.
Yep, and then we do have a couple unique ones. Nothing that we haven't seen before. We have the 10-night Southern Caribbean returning.
Yes,
which does have quite the roster.
This itinerary, first of all, I think it's a 10-night, July 25th. I think the thing that makes this even extra appealing is that it goes to Lighthouse Point and Castaway Cay. It goes to Antigua and St. Lucia, and then it goes to Dominica, which I don't have a recollection of Disney really going to Dominica before. It's possible that it has on other Southern or other itineraries, but it's certainly not somewhere that it goes all the time. And then it's also stopping in Tortola.
Yeah, so that is a stacked roster, plus 3 days at sea.
And that one's going to sell out. In the beginning, at least. Then, people book it and then they change their mind. So definitely it'll be something that I think will sell quickly and sell expensively. And then there might be opportunities next summer when people change their mind, when it's time to pay for it.
Yep. And then to balance that out, we do have a 6-night Western Caribbean on the Fantasy right after that. And there is also, I think, a 5-night on the Fantasy as well, all to kind of rebalance that and get the dates back into their normal 7-day rotation.
Oh, yeah, the 5-night is the double dip to Castaway.
Yep, July 20th.
Which is just before.
Yep,
that.
Day before
so you could
it,
actually
or sailing before it.
Yeah, you could do back-to-back where you go to the 5-night and then to the 10-night and just have 3 times at Castaway.
Stop everywhere.
Just saying. That's a choice. Okay. So let's go to Alaska next.
Yep. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not seeing anything particularly crazy for the Alaska sailings. Looks like it's pretty rinse and repeat on the similar itineraries. We have 1 9-night sailing on July 15th.
And 1 5-night.
Yep. That balances out the 9-night. And then we are looking at a lot of 7-night Alaskans.
Correct. So it does look like, though, there is... I feel like Icy Strait, I could be wrong about this, but is a stop that they typically have less offerings of typically. And now they have half the season going to Icy Strait as a port stop. And then the alternate 7-night sailings are
Skagway.
Yeah. So in Skagway is where you would take that train. So it's just, I guess, a factor of what sort of excursion you were looking for more.
I feel like of the 2, Skagway is probably more to offer. Icy Strait Point is the one with the
zip line.
The zip line and the trolley up to the top, the gondola.
Oh yeah, and it's a man-made port. Like it was made for cruises, and so maybe that's less appealing.
But I don't know. Otherwise, we have a stop on our sailing this summer to Icy Strait, and that's the place where we're like, oh, there's really not a whole lot that we are finding super interesting. Dennis says Icy Strait was usually once or twice a season. That is a big change. I think a lot of that too just has to do with the volume of ships that are up there, and just kind of everyone booking or figuring out their schedules, and everyone trying to make it work in each of these different days. But anything else to add to Alaska sailings?
Nope.
Alrighty. Do we want to move into Europe?
Yeah, so let's start with it's going to be the dream again going into Europe. And it starts with the transatlantic May 5th, doing a 13-night eastbound from Fort Lauderdale to Barcelona with its basically normal stops. Portugal, Spain. At least I think they're normal. I don't always follow those stops as much, but I know we've definitely seen some of those.
Portugal, Lisbon. Looks pretty close to what we've seen before. Unfortunately, this is where having Steve would be a
Steve
huge
would
help.
be so helpful. He's like, he knows how to say all these cities, and he
has been
is
on
the
most
most
of these
familiar.
sailings. It's true.
Is the most familiar.
Yep. So that is May 5th, 13 night. And then after that.
You know what? There is a hole in the schedule after that.
Yeah, because I'm not. May 25th.
Right. Well, May 5th plus 13 does not equal May 25.
Nope. So we are missing one unless someone else sees something we're not.
Yeah. So report back if you do. But that would put it at May 18th, which
So
is
missing
a
about
7-night hole. So it's going to be a Barcelona based upon the 25th, going to and from Barcelona somewhere.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But then you do have, what is that, about a month of 7-night Mediterraneans as well as a 5-night Mediterranean out of Barcelona. I love sailings out of Barcelona. I think Barcelona is a great city to stay in for a couple days before you're sailing or after.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was so much to do, fairly walkable depending on where you are.
Oh, I think it's super walkable. And if not, you can do some modes of public transportation for short periods of time to get you where you need to go. I think it's very walkable.
Yeah, I highly would recommend if you're looking for a Mediterranean, any of those ones out of Barcelona. The airport is maybe 25, 30 minutes. The port is right in the city, so you're never really more than like, I would say 15 minutes max if you're towards the outskirts. But if you're in the city, I think we were like a 5-minute drive from the port when we stayed there.
Yeah, so much easier than Civitavecchia out of Rome, which isn't really Rome. It's like the coast, obviously, right? And so a much easier city and to navigate on your own as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. I loved Barcelona when we were there.
But Rome is amazing.
Rome is amazing.
Part of the problem.
Yes, and if you do want to get those extra days in Rome, we do have a couple different options out of Civitavecchia. We've got 7-night Mediterranean, 9-night Mediterranean actually kicks it off out of Barcelona still, and then that ends in Civitavecchia. So it would be a good one if you want to get that before in Barcelona, after in Rome. And the 9-night sailing and that 11-night after that tend to be pretty popular sailings.
Yeah, so, but after the 9-night, then she's going to be doing some 7-night round trip from Rome to the Greek Isles, which is like great, easy. I love it. That one goes to Naples, goes to Mykonos, Santorini, Hania, and then 2 days at sea. I mean, that is a great starter Greek Isles type cruise. Just like really manageable ports. And then after it does those, then it goes back to the 11-night. But this is an interesting one. It's going to be a one-way cruise. So like Lake said, it's going to end back in Barcelona, but it goes to Malta. So, which I am 50% Maltese. And so that one's slightly appealing. There's actually a lot I'd like to do next summer. Just going to need a little more money. But so that one also goes to Athens and it goes to Turkey. So that is not a stop that Disney makes it too often. And then it also goes to Sicily. So those are some really unique, and then Crete, and then Mykonos. So that's a great itinerary.
I would love to get to go and do one of those Greek island sailings one day. I would love to go back and do just the regular med sailing again. Oh, just a med sailing.
Yeah, just a med sailing. Just get your easy Florence, Rome, Nice. So, you know what's funny is that itinerary, which I think is like, I would say the regular med sailing, is only happening really early in the season.
Yeah, yeah, it's in there for the first part of the summer. Do we think with the Treasure coming out that next season we might see two ships doing some Europe sailings?
Oh,
I feel like
maybe. I
we're
mean, they
starting to get to the
would.
point where we're like bursting at the seam with them trying to do something different each year to, appeal to people, but
Right. And I think, don't you think that maybe they are going to want to put the magic back? Because I feel like that some people are thinking there's some things different, and maybe with the bigger ship, who knows, but that they don't want it to just be the dream. I don't know. That's just me.
I feel like the Dream could probably do pretty well. Most cruise lines have a ship that just does basically the Med all season. It'll just do, 7 nights on the Med. And then they'll have another typically smaller
That
ship
is
that's
true.
going to do some of those more quirky sailings, some of those longer, which is, kind of the roots of a lot of people sailing on the Magic is doing those
Yeah.
cool sailings in the summer on the Med.
And after they've done like the regular med, then they move out. So, somebody asked, do the med sail cruises sell out? And what would they need two ships out there? I mean, you got to look at Celebrity has like 5 ships in the med. Royal Caribbean has, I don't know exactly how many, but 5 or more ships in the med. Most of the cruise lines keep one ship in the Caribbean and Bahamas in the summer and take the rest of their fleet practically and throw it in Europe. So Europe sells. It's whether Disney has the market, but you know what? Disney then, which we need to get to the rest of the med season. So we've sort of been hanging out in June, July so far. But Disney has some cool itineraries that go to Western Europe and Northern Europe, and they don't ever get to go there until August because of, or late July because of where they have their ships. So I think they could.
Have something hang
It's
out more in that Western Europe area.
And whether they could sell them out, I don't know. So obviously they used to. When Greece first was launched a few years ago, man, those cruises sold out so fast. But then COVID and the world's all this cruise industry is all trying to like figure out where they lie now post COVID stuff, right? Post COVID shutdown, and so it is a mystery for all of them about filling their ships, but I guess we wait and see. And that's where unique itineraries come into play, especially for Disney Cruise Line cruisers, because Disney Cruise Line cruisers want to take Disney to the Med, even if it's more expensive, because it's what they're used to and comfortable. And it's just how it works out all the time. I mean, Steve has teenagers and he's still taking his kid, they're still, their preferred cruise line is still Disney into the Med. And so to have more opportunities to hit some more of those unique locations, I think in times where, if you have a kid in school in the southern states, you can't go on these late August cruises because your kids are back in school. And so, it would give them an opportunity to get some more locations available to them.
Would also give you 2 more options for transatlantic cruises,
Right.
especially if they stagger them a little bit. So maybe you get one that's kind of like in that early summer.
Oh, yeah. They could keep one ship out a little bit longer and then take it over. See, Disney, talk to us about your plans. We'll help you. Okay, so let's hang out and do all the confusing cities that we need Steve for. There are 2 exciting Norwegian fjord cruises, and I think those are always really exciting ones for people. One is in July, the 12 night to the Norwegian fjords and Iceland. That one's sailing from Southampton, 5 days at sea. It obviously has a long way to go. It looks like it overnights in Reykjavik. So that cruise is great because typically it is later in the summer. And so that will give more people an opportunity if they need to work with school schedules to get on it. And then it has a 7-night Norwegian fjord cruise after that, round trip from Southampton. from there, or not even from there, but yeah, I guess from there. After that,
You move
what do
into
we
the
have?
Western.
Yeah, back to the Western. So we have like some 4-night. There's a lot of short little cruises in there.
Yeah, and I think we saw that with this summer as well with these Westerns. It's kind of almost going back on what were those sailings called?
Magic at Sea.
Magic at Sea, kind of those short little sailings all out of Southampton, England, which is another kind of interesting thing because they have been favoring Dover for a long while. So we have a slight relocation there.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of 4 and 5 nights through August that go to France, to Spain again,
A lot of Spain.
all Spain, and then Belgium.
The Belgium one's kind of cool.
From Southampton on a cruise ship on 3-night cruise. Fascinating. Yeah. And it's like you could do a bunch of those back to back, but you're always starting in Southampton. So those are definitely Magic at Sea cruises for their English folk and English fan base, and making it a little bit more convenient for them to do those cruises. Then there's 2 7-night cruises out of England going to Western Europe as well. Those are basically the they say Western, but the one is just the British Isles. So, and then the other one is Germany and Netherlands. It looks like there's an overnight in Hamburg, Netherlands, and Belgium. That one's kind of cool. And that's September 1st.
That's good to have that overnight in Germany, because if you want to go to Berlin, that's like a 4-hour drive, or it's a pretty long drive to get out there. So that would actually give people the option to go out there. I'm sure they'll have excursions that'll have you stay out there overnight, and then you'll actually get a pretty good, at least solid day of touring the city then.
That's awesome. And then finishing up back in the middle of July, which we just didn't mention this, there is 7-night from Spain, or from England, just doing Spain and Portugal.
Yes, I did miss that one.
And so that is Europe, and we're basically on time.
We did it. We went through it. We learned all the things. We talked about the things. I do have a few minutes here if anyone has any other questions. I know we've got a couple more comments. One good one here. I'm curious about, once the treasure comes out, how will they use Lighthouse Point? I don't think the Wish or treasure will go, but it has to be more than just a Magic. I would imagine with all their investing into the Fort Lauderdale port, we'll probably see the Fantasy move down that way, and the Fantasy will do some sort of variety of Lighthouse Point sailings. The Dream obviously is down there during the winter, and now the Magic is actually, the Magic I think is going to be the floater now. It's going to be kind of going all over, filling in those holes.
I do think, though, that Disney likes to capitalize on opportunities. So I believe there will 100% be a treasure cruise going to Lighthouse Point.
Oh, for sure. And especially if it's taking over that Fantasy roster, we see even just on this one, the Fantasy does, even after the inaugural, sneak in a couple Lighthouse Point sailings here and there.
Yeah, so a couple or one?
It's got the 10-day, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it had another one.
No, because the other one is just the double dip at Castaway.
Gotcha. So just one other after
Unless we're missing it. So if we're missing it, we apologize. Again, it's just 2 sets of eyes on these charts that we've just sort of been studying. But yeah, I think it's just the inaugural and the 10-day, which are both like amazing itineraries. So Chris just popped on. What did I miss? Well, Chris, it's going to go live when Steve lands on the podcast feed, so you can listen to it.
Missed us fumbling around, talking about sailings, bouncing back and forth between dates.
Yes, I think we did fine. Hopefully you guys think so too. So what are you guys all thinking of booking? Are you excited? Oh, you know what we didn't do? We didn't do what Steve does every year. Opens. Which day it opens. I took a picture of it so I can look at that. Hold on.
I was about to say that would be.
That's a Steve department. I actually have it right here. One. Okay.
I have it. Alrighty. So those coveted early booking dates. Platinum cruisers can start booking on Monday, March 27th.
Not
as well
Pearl.
as, yep, so there is no early Pearl status as of now. I don't think we're going to see an addendum to that or anything. I think Pearl just hasn't technically started yet, so they're just rolling with it. We don't have any sort of Super Pearl early booking or any of that like we saw with the Wish.
Yeah.
It's just straight up Platinum.
A point is if you are sending out a message to your travel agent, especially if you haven't worked with them before, make sure you get them your Castaway Club number and your dates of birth, because they need one Castaway Club number to log in to do your booking. If you are doing an online booking, you need to or log in that way. If you have an onboard booking, that's the word I'm trying to say. If you are using an onboard booking, they cannot be called in until 8 a.m. the day that your time opens up. All right, take it away.
We do have a special guest joining us here as well.
Hi, Katie.
So Golden Oak can also book on the 27th. Sorry. And then the next day, March 28th, your gold members, shout out to our fellow gold people, you can start booking March 28th.
Just put your mic in front of you a tiny bit more again.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, better.
Okay. And then March 29th, you get silver as well as DVC members and Adventures by Disney Adventure Insiders.
Which is Wednesday.
Yep. And, I think this is typically like the kind of crazy day because this encompasses quite a few people who can try to book on these sailings.
If you're DVC or ABD previous traveler, your travel agent can also book those for you. But they need your number of whatever the thing is. So it's either your member number for DVC and it has to be called in. And then the thing that's a bit bananas about it is when it gets called in, they then have to call the company and sit on hold. Like, I don't know why Disney hasn't figured out another way to see if you've done, this is what I at least imagine because of the times I've been sitting on hold for that to occur, to ensure that you've done the thing that you're saying you've done so that you can book that day. So just all of that to know, it takes a minute if you're trying to book on the silver day as a DVC or ABD insider.
Make it very hard for one day early.
Yeah.
And then general public can book March 30th.
Yes. So, Katie, what do you think?
Well, this is great. No, I haven't looked through all of the itineraries yet. I was kind of halfway. Well, I wasn't really listening. I was watching subtitles while I was in some meetings just now. The only ones I had time to look at before that was the fantasy ones for the summer. So, but I think I saw something about you wanted to do like a Greek Isle or whatever.
Yeah.
I just mentioned that's always been one that I would like to do eventually. Not
Did
necessarily.
Katie just pop on to make sure that Lake does not book a Greek Isles cruise?
Well, I was like, it was maybe 10-year anniversary. That's a really long time away. So maybe that's like a 7th year anniversary year thing. I don't know.
I like it.
I just said I would like to eventually do that.
I would like to as well. We're on the same page.
That was actually something we had considered between doing Alaska and that.
Yeah, that's true.
So 1 year.
Yep.
Chris wants to go on the 5-night that stops at Castaway and Lighthouse. I mean, it's epic, right?
That K to Point sailing. Or Point to K. Point to K sounds better.
But it's key. It's Point to Key.
Point to Key. It still sounds better.
Is that what we're going to call it? So
that's what I'm rolling with her now.
All right. Keep commenting if you have a name.
Florida sounding name. Point to Key. Sounds like a little town in Florida.
There's a Lighthouse Point, Florida, is what I learned when I was trying to make a booking stuff earlier.
Nice. All right. Well,
so I think that's it, everyone. Thanks for listening.
We are good to close out. Yep. Thank you all so much for watching. If you are watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe, ring the bell, all of that fun YouTube-y stuff. And thank you to all of the DCL podcast Patreon supporters as well. If you go to patreon.com/DCL podcast. You can find all of their different tiers there. And thanks again for watching, guys. See ya.
If you want to use me for booking your cruise, reach out to me at Christy@packyourpixiedust.com and we can get you sorted to get booked next week. And otherwise, support your local travel agents or your travel agents in general. Help the small business. It does not cost you extra, and it helps those members of the community.
Do it. Christy's awesome.
Thanks.
But, all right, let's close it out. See you guys.
Bye, everyone.